My parents kicked me out after I refused to donate my kidney to my criminal brother. My parents told me I had no choice but to donate my kidney to my older brother. When I said no, they kicked me out. Here's the truth they won't admit. The call came on a Thursday morning. I was halfway through my shift when my mom's name lit up my phone. I ignored it at first. She rarely called unless it was about something dramatic or draining. But she called again and again. On the third ring, I picked up, stepping outside into the parking lot. Her voice was tight, on the edge of breaking. "It's Jake," she said. "He's in the hospital. It's serious." Jake, my older brother, the golden child turned screw-up. The addict, the one who always got second, third, fourth chances. He disappeared months ago after getting out of jail. I hadn't heard from him since. "He's in kidney failure," she continued. "They don't think he'll make it without a transplant." I stood there in silence, unsure what she expected from me. Then she said it. "You're a match." I blinked. "What?" "They tested family members when he was first admitted. You're a perfect match, Liam. You can save him." I leaned against the wall, heart pounding. I hadn't even known he was sick, and now I was suddenly cast as the solution. The pressure in her voice made it clear this wasn't a request. It was an expectation. "I need time to think," I said quietly. Her voice sharpened. "There's nothing to think about. He's your brother. You have to do this." I told her I'd call back later. I ended the call and stared at the cracked concrete under my feet, feeling the familiar weight of guilt being quietly fastened around my shoulders. I drove to the hospital that evening. I needed to see it for myself. Jake was asleep when I got there. Tubes, monitors, the smell of antiseptic. He looked small, weak, like a ghost of the loud, angry brother I remembered. My parents stood on either side of him, tense, hopeful. My dad gave me a tight nod. "We'll talk in the hall." In the hallway, my mom didn't waste time. "He's dying. The doctors say it could be weeks. Maybe less. You're his only shot." My dad added, "You're healthy. You barely drink. You're strong. If anyone can bounce back from this, it's you." I stared at both of them, heart aching, mind racing. They didn't ask if I was okay with it. They told me I had to save him. Jake was always the one they protected, even when he messed up, even when it hurt them, even when it hurt me. He was the firstborn, the wild one, the boy with potential who just needed more time. That time cost our family years of chaos. And me? I learned early on to stay quiet and clean up after him. When he got caught stealing from our neighbors in high school, my parents said he was just hanging with the wrong crowd. When he crashed my dad's car while high, they blamed the pressure he was under. When he got arrested at 19 for drug possession, they said the system had failed him. It never ended. Rehab, relapse, repeat. I was the opposite. Honor roll. Clean record. Quiet. I did everything right because someone had to. My mom once told me I was her calm, while Jake was her fire. She said it like it was beautiful, like it was balance. But what it really meant was that I was the one who didn't get attention unless things were burning down around me. By the time I was 22, I had stopped expecting fairness. Jake borrowed money and never paid it back. He stole from our grandfather. He once got into a fight at my graduation party and left me to deal with the mess. I kept showing up, kept forgiving, because my parents made me feel like that was love. But love without accountability is manipulation. And in our house, the louder you cried, the more you were forgiven. Jake knew that. He wore it like armor. And every time I set a boundary, I was accused of being cold. "He's your brother," my dad would say. "You'll understand when you have kids of your own." So when they told me I had to give him my kidney, it wasn't just about the surgery. It was about everything that came before. All the years they chose him. All the times they turned their backs on me to chase after his disasters. This wasn't a medical request. It was one more test of my loyalty. It was never about love. It was about sacrifice. Mine. I didn't sleep the night after that conversation. I lay in bed, staring at the ceiling, my chest heavy with guilt and anger. Every time I closed my eyes, I saw Jake hooked up to machines and my parents staring at me like I was already failing them. But I also heard my own voice inside, clear and quiet. I don't want to do this. The next morning, I sat with a cup of coffee gone cold and called my mom. She answered on the first ring. Have you made a decision? I took a deep breath. Yeah, I have. I'm not going to do it. Silence. Then a sharp inhale. What do you mean? I repeated myself, slower this time. I'm not donating. I'm sorry. I can't. She didn't scream. She didn't beg. She just changed. So you're letting your brother die? I closed my eyes, felt the burn behind them. It's not that simple. Her voice tightened. It is. You could save him. You're choosing not to. I started to explain the risks, how kidney donation is major surgery, how I'd have to take off weeks of work, how my body might never fully recover. She didn't care. My dad called an hour later. I don't know who you've become, he said. You used to be the one we could count on. I told him I was still that person, but I had limits now. He didn't believe me. He said I'd regret it for the rest of my life, that when Jake was gone, I'd live with the guilt. I hung up without saying goodbye. The next few days were hell. My aunt messaged me, then my uncle, then a cousin I hadn't spoken to in years. Word had spread. Everyone had an opinion. Everyone thought they knew what I owed. One even said, if you had a heart, you wouldn't hesitate. That was when I stopped answering messages. I turned off my phone for 2 days. People love to romanticize sacrifice, when it's not their body, their life, their risk. They all said they would do it in a heartbeat, but none of them offered to be tested. None of them stepped forward. Just me. Always me. The one expected to carry the weight and smile while doing it. My body. My choice. But apparently, not in this family. The day it became official wasn't dramatic. There was no screaming match, no thrown objects, no slammed doors. Just a message from my dad. Since you've made your choice, we need you to move out. We can't have that energy here. That energy. As if saying no to risking my life made me toxic. I stared at the text for a long time. I'd been living in the basement since college, helping out with bills, doing repairs around the house, never asking for much. Now I was being cut out, not just from space, but from belonging. It didn't matter that I had been the one keeping things together all these years. I had failed their favorite, so I was out. I packed in silence. I didn't cry. I didn't argue. I just filled 3 duffel bags with my clothes, a box with old books and photos, and left. Nobody came to the door. Nobody watched me leave. I don't even think they looked out the window. It was like I had never existed. A week later, I found out from a mutual friend that my parents had told the extended family I refused to help my dying brother out of spite. They painted me as cold, unfeeling, ungrateful. My phone buzzed with a message from my cousin. I can't believe you did this to Jake. To your family. I wanted to scream, to defend myself, to tell the truth. But I didn't. Because by then, I realized they didn't want the truth. They wanted a villain. And I was the easiest one to cast. I moved in with a friend from work. Slept on a lumpy couch. Ate ramen for dinner. Started applying for studio apartments I could barely afford. It wasn't comfortable, but for the first time in weeks, I could breathe. No guilt. No manipulation. Just quiet. They didn't just shut the door. They erased me from their lives. Starting over felt like trying to breathe through a fog. Everything was unfamiliar, uncertain, unstable. But there was also something freeing about it. No one expected anything from me anymore. No phone calls demanding help. No looks of disappointment when I set boundaries. Just space. And space is what I needed most. I found a tiny 1-bedroom apartment after 2 weeks. The floors creaked. The heat barely worked. The walls were thin enough to hear the neighbor's dog snoring. But it was mine. I bought a mattress, a secondhand coffee table, and a lamp that flickered if you touched it the wrong way. Slowly, it became a home. Not perfect, not polished, but safe. I didn't talk to anyone in my family. They didn't try to reach out either. Part of me hoped my mom would call, even just to check if I was okay. But nothing came. Their silence was loud but familiar. I'd lived in that silence for years. At least now I wasn't pretending it meant something else. At work, people noticed I was quieter. My manager offered time off. I told her I was fine. I wasn't. But work gave me structure, a reason to get out of bed. I started going to the gym again, cooking real food, reading before sleep instead of scrolling through my phone, waiting for messages that would never come. One night, I sat on the floor of my new apartment, eating pasta from a plastic bowl, and realized something strange. I didn't feel guilty anymore. I missed having a family, sure, but I didn't miss being used. I didn't miss being invisible. I didn't miss the weight of carrying someone else's mistakes on my back while being told it was love. For the first time, I had peace. It wasn't loud or triumphant. It was quiet, solid, like a whisper that said, "You're allowed to protect yourself." And I believed it. I lost them, but I found myself. Months passed. I didn't hear from them. No texts, no apologies, no news. I tried not to check, but eventually curiosity got the better of me. I messaged an old neighbor who still talked to my mom from time to time. She told me Jake had gotten a transplant. Not for me, someone else, a cousin on my dad's side, had stepped up. I should have felt relief. Maybe I did, but mostly I felt nothing. They had their miracle. Their favorite son was still alive. And still, they didn't reach out. No one came to say sorry. No one tried to repair what they destroyed. I wasn't surprised. Just disappointed. I thought about sending them a letter, explaining my side, telling them how much it hurt. But what would it change? They had chosen their story. In their version, I was selfish, unloving, cold, and if that narrative made it easier for them to sleep at night, they could keep it. I was done trying to convince people of my worth. Life moved on. I made new friends, built new routines, laughed without guilt, loved myself without conditions. And I realized something important. Family doesn't have to mean forever. Sometimes it just means for a while. And sometimes letting go isn't a loss, it's the first real win. I don't know if I'll ever speak to them again. Maybe I will. Maybe I won't. But I do know this. I'm not angry anymore. I'm not bitter. I don't wake up dreading the next demand or accusation. I just wake up. And for now, that's more than enough. You don't owe anyone your body. Not even the people who raised you. You don't owe anyone your silence, your peace, or your health, especially not when they've never protected yours. What about you? Would you sacrifice your health for a sibling who never once protected you? Or would you finally choose your own life instead?